Welcome to this Ola Talks at Google virtual event. I'm April Alvarez, and I'm on the Diversity Partnerships team at Google. I'm so excited to introduce today's guest, Becky G. Becky G is a Mexican-American singer who has broken records, shattered barriers, and has become a global icon. On YouTube, she has several impressive records, including 2 music videos with over 2 billion views, and being one of the most subscribed female Latin artists on the platform, with over 21.5 million subscribers. Born and raised in Englewood, California, Becky G's music is a celebration of culture, diversity, and empowerment. Becky G, it is my pleasure to welcome you to Talks at Google, as well as our moderator, Andrea, our artist relations manager.
Hi, everyone. Yeah, it's thank you so much, April. It's my pleasure to be here and to introduce Becky G, our special guest. Thank you so much for being here, Becky. It is my honor to be a moderator of this fireside chat.
Thank you. I'm so excited.
This is great. Thank you so much for making the time. We are thrilled to have you here and share your voice with us. As Googlers, we typically start with a rapid fire questions para romper el hielo. You ready?
Yeah.
So through our Latin Hispanic Heritage Month at Google, we had the opportunity to bring attention to the contributions of Latin voices in 3 key areas: arts, music, and leadership. So we'll start there with these questions. First of all, who is your favorite Latin artist regarding actor or actress?
Oof. That is so hard. I mean, I feel like growing up, I'm like, so many telenovelas come to my mind. No, but growing up, there was something about all of the black and white Pedro Infante films that I remember, like, my grandma's like always being so proud to like play me and show, and still to this day, you know, now that they know how to work the internet, they're actually very tech savvy. But yeah, I would say like películas de amor, you know, all like the romantic films, and there's something about the black and white actually just inspired a music video that I just shot. Kind of bring that film like emotion that black and white brings.
Yeah,
and
La
so
Dorada.
I would say Pedro Infante, and obviously an amazing singer as well. So it was like, you know, he was a 1-2 punch.
Definitely. I love that Época Dorada. Yeah, my parents are definitely fans of that. And then on to your area, of course, or one of the areas I should mention, and we'll speak a little bit more about that later. Who is your favorite Latin musician or singer? I know it's going to be a tough one too, but if you could pick one at the moment.
I feel like the reason why it's so hard is because if you come specifically like from like even just like the Mexican community, right? Like for me, the Mexican American community, there's so many subgenres within the genre that is Mexican music. And so for me, like I think of like la música más tradicional, like the rancheras that I grew up listening to. Like I loved listening to Vicente Fernandez growing up. There was like more, I guess, new school artists. I still consider her new school, even though my mom was obsessed with her. But like Jenny Rivera, I was obsessed with her, because of my mom. And then I would say for me personally, and also my mom was a fan of, because she introduced me to Selena. Selena was a Chicana, just like me, Mexican American, Pocha, just like me, you know. Very proud of where she came from and her roots. And so it's hard because I feel like they all represent something bigger, you know, than themselves.
Yeah,
but they all sonically sound so different.
Definitely. And I would have imagined you were going to mention Selena, since, you know, your beautiful performance at Coachella. And if we have time, we'll speak about that. I was there, so that was such a special moment. Yeah. Last one. Who is a Latin leader that has influenced you?
Oof. A Latin leader that has influenced me. You know, it's so crazy you say that. And the first person that comes to my mind, or I should say people, are my abuelitos. I feel like it takes a lot of initiative a lot of sacrifice, a lot of just committing to the unknown to do what they did for themselves and for their family, for the future of their family. My abuelitos came from Mexico to the United States. Specifically, the story that comes to my mind is like my abuelito Miguel, que descansa en paz. He's actually the reason why I had decided to fully dedicate myself to my last album and completing it. But yeah, I would say he's by far, I think, one of the most like pivotal people in my life, and was definitely a leader for our whole family, and not just for our blood relatives. I mean, he was a leader for our community. You know, he was the el don that at the end of the day you always knew you could count on. You always knew you had a couch to sleep on. You know, you always had somebody to stay with, somebody to confide in, and I think that him being that figure for so many of us, you know, from us grandchildren to his own children, and like I said, those around him in community, I think is just so amazing. So I guess it's more of like a personal leader for sure. And I think we all, you know, have been blessed to have those figures in our lives, whether it be our parents or our grandparents. So yeah.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Let's talk about that. You know, so familia is such an important aspect. You know, you've talked about this before. It's such an important aspect of your life, and it's also most of our Latin Googlers community. You know, so that's why it's called familia at Google. So can you tell us more about the role that your family plays in your life overall?
Yeah, well, I would say like my Lita, my mom's mom, always says, "Ay, gracias a Dios por mi pueblito." You know, 'cause there's so many of us. She considers her little pueblito, and I'm one of 19 grandchildren on my mom's side, and now a couple, you know, great grandchildren because some of my primas have had babies already. And then one of 15 grandchildren on my dad's side, and also some great grandbabies on that side as well. And it really does take a village. And I think I learned very, very early on. Soy la más mayor de cuatro hijos. You know, I have my two brothers and my sister. And juntos somos más. We're so much more when we come together. And I think when I think about my transition from, you know, daughter, sister, to just young woman, young businesswoman, artist, it was always inspired by that juntos somos más, the we, not the me, you know. And I think that really bleeds from our culture. You know, our culture is about sharing. It's about sharing our food. It's about sharing our music. It's about sharing our homes. And so, for me, I was like being like a fish in water as an artist. It just felt like the right thing to do, to share.
Definitely, I feel that. Many people consider you a role model and someone to look up to, you know, for inspiration, especially in our Latin community. Can you tell us which characteristics, you know, that you consider of yourself, your personality traits as a Latina has helped you throughout your career? And what is the inspiration you get from the Latin talent you mentioned before, your family, everything?
Oof, that's such a great question. I mean, I think it's one, maybe this is the Latina in me having a hard time to talk about myself because we're taught to put everybody else before us before we can actually reflect on what it is that we need or what we wanted and things like that. But, you know, I think there's a lot of stereotypes that have gone along, gotten very far in our industries, which is, you know, the feisty Latina, the sassy Latina, the Latina with the attitude. And it's like, no, I actually think, yeah, okay, si tengo chispa, you know, like my parents would always refer to me as this little chispa, like wherever I was, it was just like this little firecracker, just, you know, but I think it's our drive. I think it's this passion and this, you know, I always joke about how I may be pocha and I speak English first as my first language and then Spanish as my second language. I do everything else in Spanish, and I would try to explain it to my abuelitos, you know, I love in Spanish. I feel in Spanish. I work and my passion and my drive and everything else is in Spanish. I eat in Spanish. I drink in Spanish. I cry in Spanish, you know. And I think it comes from like just a deeper part of our soul. And I think that's what's really kind of helped me lean into myself throughout all of these years because I grew up in this industry at such a young age. Like I think about how little I was. I was 9 years old when I first started this industry. And, you know, got signed at 14. And, fast forward over 10 years later, here we are, and I still am figuring things out. I'm still learning. I don't have all the answers. I actually have more questions now than ever. And I think it's that desire to like learn and the desire to be better that has allowed me to continue feeling inspired, to continue feeling like there's room for growth. And I think that we need to almost like allow each other the space and the grace to be able to explore those things and try those things, without having to like hold on to every single thing as a part of our identity too, And so that I think for me has been like, I think what's allowed me to become the person that I am today is to know that like I am who I am. No one can decide that for me but myself.
Absolutely. And that's beautiful what you said about, the older we get, like the more we figure out that we don't have things figured out. So that's
Yeah.
that, yeah, I can resonate to that. And then you were speaking about how you started like so young. So let's go back to that. Let's like travel a bit in time. So you were born and raised in California, more specifically Englewood. And then, you 10 years ago, you released Becky from the Block. And in the song, your lyrics talk about the love you have for the city. And then fast forward to today, Englewood gives you the key to the city. Congrats on that, first of all. And in the history of the city, Englewood has only given out 4 keys. And I think you realize that you are the second woman to receive one and the first Latina. What does this mean to you overall? I mean, it can mean so many things. How does this recognition make you feel, and what does this mean for you individually and for your community?
Well, a lot of things come to me. I think that I made the joke that Englewood has always had the key to my heart, and now to have the key to Englewood is like such an honor, to know that in their entire history, since the beginnings of the city itself, there's only been 4 people to receive the key. And for me to be identified as somebody who's worthy and deserving of that honor is just, I mean, it means the world to me, because obviously I reflect on all my years growing up there, and still when I'm there and feeling this sense of connection, this sense of home. And although it's changing a lot, and that the concept of gentrification is like a whole other thing to get into, but with this being the year that I worked on my album Esquinas, and just the concept of the album, and it feeling like it was like the last chance that I could really capture the city that it is that I grew up in, as close as it is to what it was when I was a little girl, was such a cathartic, nostalgic experience for me. And so to be up there receiving the keys, just like everything, it's where my papi was laid to rest, my grandpa Miguel that I mentioned. And so like my heart will always be there no matter where I go. And it's crazy you bring up Becky from the Block, because so many years later, and I listened to the lyrics, actually just performed it on my tour, and I waited specifically till I got to LA to put it in the set list, was because I almost felt like I declared it since I was very, very young, like no matter where I go, like maybe my promise wasn't that I would never leave where I came from, but that I would take where I'm from wherever I go. And the fact that I still come back and I still feel this sense of home is everything to me,
Absolutely. That's beautiful. And again, congrats on that. I think that's such a meaningful moment.
Thank you.
You have such an amazing journey in the music industry. What's the one thing that you look back on with the most pride? I mean, you definitely talk about this, like listening back to the lyrics, but what else do you look, back and you say like this is like one of the most special moments of my career, or it's something that I really take pride in?
I can literally hear my grandpa in my ear, like, ponte las pilas, mija, like, like just keep going. And it was like, there was definitely times, I mean, especially having started as young as I did, it's so much of your identity when you start working in an industry that is so based on what you look like, what you can do for others, all these things, your sense of self-worth starts to get like lost in all of that. And I think my family was always like my North Star. They were the thing that kept me grounded, the thing that helped me feel like no matter what happens, I know that I'm going to be okay and that it's going to be all right. And then, as the different phases of my career would come across, my grandparents would be kind of this like example to me of like, you know, if they made something from nothing, like I'm gonna be all right. Like I can do that. And every time that I would feel like I was starting over, you know, from zero all over again, I'd realize like I'm not starting from zero. Like this is all part of the process. I am gaining tools, I'm gaining perspective, I'm gaining experience. And so so I think that's like the thing that's made me like the most proud is that like I never gave up and that I never lost sight of what truly matters to me. Even if steps, you know, the steps were a little backwards, it felt like I made sure to make sure that they counted towards something. And I think we forget that, you know, especially in a generation like today, like everything is so instantly gratified. And if you see, you know, these young influencers, these young, you know, whatever, living in mansions at such a young age and driving these really nice cars, and you're like, I'm so behind, you know. I have primas of mine, like I said, they're married or have babies, and you still fall into these pressures of like, am I behind? Am I missing out on something? What's going on? And then just trusting like your path, like this is my path, and I make it what I want it to be. Oh, there's something very empowering about that. And so I think that's been my most proud accomplishment, is just not losing sight of myself and what matters most to me.
That's amazing. And I know you already said, and we already talked about, you know, how, you know, as you move forward, you see that you don't have things figured out, but, you know, you're going forward, you know, with what you're learning, and you're letting go things and you're absorbing new things. But would you say today, me, Becky G, like, I know where I'm going? Is that something that you could say, or is that something like, I trust the process today? You know, how do you feel today?
Yeah, I think it's hard to trust something that you can't feel, you can't see, you can't, you know, like that to me is the epitome of having faith. I can't see it, I can't feel it, I can't touch it, I can't, but it is a knowing. It is this like deeper knowing, this intuitive thing. And I think for me, like, yeah, I think this is the closest to like my true self I've ever felt. And I think that's because the older you get, the more questions you have, the more you realize that you don't know it all and that you don't have to, which is also
No.
kind of like refreshing for me, you know, like, oh yeah, I don't have to have all the answers. There's this really fun concept someone introduced to me, which was like, you know, all of our years in life up until, you know, 20 years old, that's like, you know, our adolescent, our inner child phase. But then you get to 20 and you are a newborn adult, you know. So 21, you're technically a 1-year-old adult. So like I'm a 6-year-old adult. Like you know, like I'm going into first grade right now, and it's really fun and I'm learning a lot and it's awesome.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, someone also once told me like something similar. It's like whoever says that has all the answers or everything figured out, they're either lying or just confused. So I truly believe that too. So let's talk about music. You have worked in collaboration with many other members of the Latin community, you know, and, you know, throughout your career, you know, it's not something from today, just because everything that's happening today, you've been doing it all along. Can you tell us, you know, working with, you know, artists such as Peso Pluma, Karol G, Bad Bunny, just to name a few, all of the people that are part of your esquinas, can you tell us more about why it is important for Latin community to join forces? Like you said, juntos es más. Tell us more about that.
I don't know what it is about the process that for me personally has always just been more fun, more exciting, more meaningful when I can look to my left or look to my right and see someone else who I care about deeply, who I admire very deeply, who I respect very deeply, share in that light and in that excitement, or even in that nervousness. I mean, you know, I can think about Sin Pijama with Nati. We were both, you know, at a time in our career where she had 1 billion views with Criminal, with Ozuna, and I had 1 billion views with Bad Bunny. And everybody kept saying, you know, oh, they only got 1 billion views because of the guys that are on the record. And we were, you know, you're kind of proving yourself still. And I remember people telling us, you know, las mujeres cantando música reggaeton no va a funcionar. Like, girls don't sell tickets. You're never going to tour. You're never going to this. You're never going to that, right? And I remember someone from the label telling me, if you think this song is such a hit, why do you want to share it? And I said, because hit songs happen every day. I don't want a hit song. I want a moment in history, something that I would have needed when I was a little girl. And I was obsessed with all kinds of artists, but especially in the era of Christina Aguilera, Britney Spears. I mean, the movement that was, you know, these pop girlies in Hollywood breaking records and going global and all of these things. But imagine how much bigger if they had did an album together, went on tour together, did a song together, you know? And so I told everyone, I was like, I really want to do this song with Nati. And I reached out to her myself and I sent her the song myself and we made that happen. And we were so nervous, not because we didn't believe in the song, but because people didn't believe in us. And that you have something to prove there. But I remember the first take of the music video, we like jumped up and down like little girls, like we felt the magic. And that it's those moments for me that are the ones to hold on to. Those are the moments that I will carry with me forever. You know, I feel the same way about my song with Beso. You know, the way that came to be. We met in the studio, and it was just literally gonna be a hangout. Like, whatever happens, and you know, I get to know you, you get to know me. Let me play you a song from my upcoming project. And he was like, "Oh, let me play you songs that are about to come out." And así como nada, like in 45 minutes, we wrote a song. And it's like you can't fake those moments. You can't make them up. And it is a very transactional industry, you know. So when you're reminded and you're given this opportunity to feel so refreshed, and what it is that we do is just it's everything. It's so beautiful to me. So that to me is like what it's about. It's like knowing that we're not alone. Like, there's too many of us for us to think that we can do it all by ourselves, you know?
Definitely. And, you know, years later, you know, that song comes out, and it's I mean, it plays and people just freak out. So you definitely did a good call there. So congrats.
Thank you.
Let's talk about, I mean, you definitely pressed on something that, you know, I'd love your input, you know, in terms of like women in the industry. You know, there's like right now, I feel there's like, you know, there's you, there's Carol, and but I would love to see more female artists on top positions of charts. So what do you think us in the music industry should be doing more to support that? And how can we be, you know, useful on that, you know, to support more? And like, what are some names that you feel that should also be in those positions, you know, people that you believe in, you know, female artists?
There's countless names, to be honest. There's a lot of talent. That's the thing. I would say our responsibility, the ones that are already actively in the space, our responsibility is to create more opportunities. Because it's not that there's a lack of talent. It's not that there's a lack of talented young women. There's not a lack of talented young women who are hardworking and willing to do what it takes. It's that there's a lack of opportunity. The amount of times I've been left with the impression that there's literally only one seat at the table and we're all going to have to fight for it. No, let's go build our own table and let it be the table where everybody eats. Everybody drinks. You can sit. You can dance on top of the table. You want to take a nap under the table like we used to for kids at the quinceañera. We can do that too. You know, like I think that's actually what it is. So it's not that there's not of the talented, you know, young individuals who are down for it. I think it's that, you know, everything works on cycles, right? And it's like so and so's having their moment, and that can be very true. But why does it just have to be a moment? Like we have to, I think it's fair to give ourselves the time as artists to know that art takes time. And if I rode one wave, it's okay, because there's going to be more waves. Like I don't have to force something, you know? And that's the other thing that I would also recommend for us, the ones that are here, that are, whether we are in front of the cameras or behind the cameras, creating those opportunities. Don't force it. for performative reasons, because to talk about girl power is one thing, to actually be about it is another. And I think building meaningful relationships for when the time is right is more impactful than forcing things when the time is not right, and it being so transactional and it not really carrying the substance that really takes time. It's like a little plantita that you have to water. You know, we have to water each other. We have to plant these seeds and have the patience to weather all of the different seasons. And I think in this industry, you know, the more that these seasons go by, the less predictable they've become. You know, the shorter the cycles have become. And so I look at my career and I'm like, I have how many years doing this and I still feel like a baby? And how, you know, like it's so beautiful to me to still be here. And so I hope that for so many other young women to know that they got time. We got time.
Absolutely. And like you said, it's about, you know, creating opportunities and seguir empujando, keep showing up. Absolutely. And speaking about, you know, opportunities and, you know, and what's been happening in other industries as well, you know, and cinema in particular, we heard you are in the process of expanding into the TV and film space with your own production company. And we saw your participation in Blue Beetle, you know, speaking of opportunities and things that, you know, interesting things that are happening with Latin communities. Blue Beetle was definitely a strong moment that should not be a moment, right? So what can you share with us about the importance of driving emphasis on telling Latin stories through Latin voices?
Yeah, well, I think for me, when I think of my responsibility as a storyteller, as a producer specifically, it's a new muscle for me that I am definitely getting my reps in. And it came from my experience on the other side of what it felt like, you know, to feel like I was being cut short sometimes. That some of the, you know, character breakdowns that I would get were a little bit too one size fits all. And I know we want to be inclusive, but also, are we forcing something here, you know, to get the same character breakdown for me, where my character is supposed to check all of these boxes, for the bigger suits to be able to check their box of diversity. Like, that's cool, but like, it feels forced. It doesn't feel authentic to us. It doesn't feel very honest. And so yeah, so for me as a producer, like, it's been a better way to create more opportunity for others, and to continue being a storyteller. And I think that's, you know, from all our chismosas tias to my grandpas who, you know, have these amazing stories to tell. We're really good at it. So, like, why not, you know, why not try it out? Why not exercise it? And my mom, when I was a student, when I was younger, I hated reading, which is very new for me as an adult. I actually really enjoy reading now, but I hated reading as a kid. And so my mom, the way she would trick me into it was she'd say, Mija, okay, if you're not going to read a story, then I need you to write one. And so then I would write movies, I would write TV show ideas, I would do all of these things, write stories, you know. And so it's definitely come to be something that I'm very, very passionate about today. And you know, I think in the near future, more exciting things will be happening on that side. But even in the long term, again, my true goal here is to be able to build more community, learn from my peers and learn from those before me on what to do and what not to do. And then build those and plant those seeds, build those opportunities for the next generations to come.
Amazing. I can't wait to see what you do there. That's so exciting. Do you have anything like a fun memory on the things that you used to write? Like anything that comes to mind?
Oh, of course. Oh my God. The obvious one that comes to mind was I once wrote a movie for J-Lo to play my mom. Which is funny because I kind of manifested it with Becky from the block, I guess, like a couple years later. You know, she's kind of like my musical madrina, I guess you could say. After I got signed, was one of the first big artists to kind of give me her bendición. But yeah, that's a funny one. That one's pretty random.
I love that. That's awesome. Let's talk a little bit about leadership, you know, things and other projects. Like I said before, you've been busy. So after releasing a makeup collection for the Colourpop brand successfully, you launched your own beauty brand, Treslúce Beauty. Did I say that right? Because I did see your video. Okay, awesome. This brand is meant to inspire people, highlight your Mexican heritage, and celebrate all Latin cultures. So how does this brand do this? How does it achieve all of this and support Latin heritage and culture?
Yeah, so going back to the storytelling and a lot of what I experienced and growing up in the industry in this one size fits all mentality, I had the awesome opportunity to collaborate with other massive brands. I mean, even before Colourpop was a cover girl, and I was like the youngest Latina cover girl to ever be, and I was 15, and like to be able to go and say that, it was such an honor. But there came a time where, you learn so much. You're like, I think I'm ready to do this on my own. And going back to learning from those who came before me and honoring those lessons, what to do, what not to do. One of the biggest things that I didn't want to do anymore was just be the face, the Latina face for someone. I wanted to be an owner. I wanted to be a founder. I wanted to be a businesswoman and actually have a seat at the table when it came to the decisions that were being made. So yeah, so that was a true path for me in my learning experience, my growing experience to getting to Treslúce. And even then, launching a beauty brand in the middle of the pandemic and the hardships that come with that, and even still that come with transitioning a brand from one thing to another. It's this constant evolution of storytelling, and the vessel that is Treslúce to me was knowing that I wanted to collaborate with other artists. So our first palette that we released, all of our eyeshadow palettes are done in collaboration with artists who are either painters or incredible with, like, for instance, Monica. That's who I was going to talk about. Monica was one of the first people that we collaborated with. Our I Am palette, and she's from Mexico, and she works with water paint, and it is absolutely stunning. I mean, she's so talented, and she was able to, we had a story with Treslúce that we wanted to tell. I told her, I don't want to just like have my face on everything. I wanted to be like artistic, And so she created this beautiful, artwork that had also the agave that we have infused in our eyeshadow palettes. The blue agave that we sustainably sourced from Mexico. So she kind of built this like art piece where you have the agave, you have my face and like the shape of my eyes and all of these things. And to be able to collaborate with other artists and have their interpretation of something that means something to them. For her, obviously Mexico is very important. And so when she heard the story of the blue agave that's infused in it, she's like, I really want the agave to be a part of the art. Or there's another artist that we worked on with a holiday palette called Tres Reinas. And for me, it was like the three generations of, my grandmothers, my mom, me, and my sister, and how we all, have passed down, these beauty tricks for so many years, all of these traditions for so many years. And obviously the Tres Reyes, I was like, no, we got to do, the Tres Reinas, like, obviously. And so we did that, and it was so beautiful because the three women that are on the palette that she was inspired by to draw are her and her sisters. And I thought that was so beautiful. So you know what I mean? Like there's ways to be able to collaborate and also allow others to share their stories through the vessel. That is Treslúce. And again, that's my goal with everything that I do, whether it be through my makeup brand or anything else.
Yeah, it's to me, it's clear that everything you do is always so intentional and with purpose. Would you say that's a Becky trait, or is it something that has been inspired or passed on to you by anyone from your family, or is it like something that just like drives you, to be completely present in everything you do?
I think it's both. I think I personally prefer it that way. Like I really enjoy it. I enjoy sharing. And like I said, I don't know if it's because I'm the eldest sister. Like I really do. I love doing that with my siblings. Ask anybody on my team if I'm traveling and I'm going to like part of the world. I'm like, can I bring my sister? Can I bring my brother? I really want them to get this experience. I want them to see, you know, different things and experience different cultures and different foods, especially the foods part. But yeah, that's just how I prefer to live my life, is to be able to share. I think things taste better when you know, share. And I think it was taught to me by those around me. I think it's something that, you know, was instilled in me at a very young age, to be considerate of others, to be compassionate of others, to look out for each other, you know. So yeah, I would say for sure a family thing.
For sure. Speaking of looking out for each other, we've seen you using your voice to bring awareness on very important issues for community and humanity in general, from mental health to voting, gender equality. Is there a cause that is more like close to your heart, like one that you're like the most passionate about? And, you know, what are the efforts that you are leading right now to drive change in that space?
There's, I think, still far too many things that disproportionately affect our minority communities, like especially us as a Latin community, when it comes to, you know, women's rights, when it comes to voting rights, when it comes to mental health. I mean, all of it, even just healthcare. You know, there's so many things. Education, you know, there's so many things. But I think for me personally, like what I'm very, very passionate about, because I really think that we all deserve safe spaces, is mental health. And I think the safe space that we have in our own mind, in our own bodies, in our own hearts, we all have the right to, and unfortunately don't all have the same access to resource, or the same access to community sometimes, you know, because of the cultural taboos that still exist in our communities. And so for me personally, I would say mental health is like a huge key to all being able to address it all. You know, if I'm not okay, then I can't really show up for those around me. So I have to learn to show up for myself first, which is, you know, unfortunately something that like my mom wasn't taught, something that my abuelitas weren't taught. You know, it's definitely generational. And so to kind of, my mom's very young and she's so open-minded, and we've done therapy together, and I feel so lucky to even be able to say that, you know. But it's been so cool to be able to break those, you know, generational chains, and feel like, no, we can start our own traditions around these things. We can start you know, a culture that feels more safe for us, to be able to talk about how we really feel, to be able to talk about what weighs on us, to be able to talk about our hopes and dreams and not feel guilty about them. Because that's the other thing, you know, that survivor's guilt of when things are going really well, and you are really happy, and then you're just waiting for something terrible to happen, or you're waiting for, like, what is that we're carrying, and we don't realize that's not really ours. You know, it's not really, maybe that's the community that we grew up in that says, you know, dream big but not too big.
That's, you know, so real.
Go far. Actually, no, stay right where you are, because if you don't, you're not one of us anymore. And that's so hard. And I think a lot of us second, third generation, you know, first generation kids who were born here in the States, like, that is the hardest part to navigate, is doing things that we were never taught, you know. So yeah, by far mental health is I think, like I said, we all deserve safe spaces. And so I like to start there, but I don't think we end there. I think there's a lot of work to do, unfortunately.
Definitely. And I agree. I love the fact that we can talk about therapy more openly now. And it's something that's happening right now. Like our parents were not familiar with that. It was, like you said, it was a bit taboo to speak about that. So I'm very happy, you know, to see like this change in new generations that are more aware of mental health. I love that you're speaking out about that. You are a very well-deserved award-winning singer, songwriter, actress, and activist. And you're constantly active, like I said before, constantly busy. But you said like busy is being blessed. But can you tell us more about how you balance your career, all of this, you know, with your personal interest and life, and how do you balance this to avoid being burned out or feeling burned out?
Yeah, the concept of burnout wasn't like introduced to me until I was in therapy. I was about, I think it was like my 21st birthday, my 22nd birthday, that I went into like my first therapy session. And I couldn't even get a word out. I got so emotional just even being there. And I think that's what moved me, was like, oh, I'm here for me. I'm here for me. Like, no one else benefits from a healthier me, whether it be my mind, my body, my spirit, than me, you know? And so understanding that, I think, was so important, because going back to what I said earlier about growing up in this industry and a lot of your self-worth being tied to, you know, your resume, what you've done, what you've accomplished, or what, you know, what the numbers look like, whatever that means. And I don't think you have to be a like pop star to know what that feels. I have cousins who are going to nursing school, and they're the first in our family, you know, and they've become the family doctor all of a sudden. And my grandma's calling them like, no, es que mis pastillas ya no los quiero tomar. And my cousin's like, call your doctor. Like, there's a lot of pressure, you know, everybody's relying on you because you're doing it. And so when I went to therapy, I think that was a game changer for me. And it's something that, you know, I pretty consistently, I'd say, through different phases of my career, have tapped in and out of. And it's been great for me. And I think there's different forms of therapy, you know, again, finding community, speaking with people who align with your values and align with your dreams, and who align even sometimes with your hardships and have gone through similar things. Because, you know, I grew up with three siblings, right? Four of us in the same household. And you'd be surprised, even within the same four walls, our experience of things is so different. Because me as the eldest daughter is different than the eldest son, and different than the youngest daughter. And my mom, you know, she was also parentified by her parents at a very young age. Why? Because they were immigrants. And, you know, I remember what it was like going to the DMV and helping my puppy, you know, translate all these papers. I didn't even know what these words meant, you know, and I'm like a no sabo kid, like trying to blur the lines. And so all of these things were things that I got to unpack in a safe space and continue to unpack still, because they, of course, they stay with you, you know. So I would say that's helped me big time. Therapy has been amazing. And of course, just like taking time and taking space for myself, and knowing that no one can decide anything for me but me. And I will always do whatever I can within my own power to make sure that I am aligning myself with the things that I know my higher self would want for me. You know, whether it be, you know, just better job opportunities, or knowing that this job opportunity is great. It's a great opportunity, but it may not be the right opportunity for me. So like learning how to say no, like that was very valuable for me. That's important. Just knowing I got time. I'm gonna do things at my time when I decide to.
For sure. And learning how to say no, which is a thing I think all of us Latin people nos cuesta un poco.
Yes.
It's not like no, it's like, vamos a ver.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's always like the open door to opportunity. But yeah, definitely something to remember. I want to go now to your moment right now with Esquinas. It's such a special album. Congrats on it. I can't get enough of it, actually. So it's beautiful. And it's when I heard, you know, that you were going to release something to celebrate you know, your Mexican American heritage, I figure it would be something else, you know, like, all right, like it's gonna still continue on maybe like the lines of, you know, Peso Pluma and Gabito, but it's something else. I mean, it's that, but it's more, you know. So I listened to it and I'm like, wait a second, this song, you know, I'm listening to Segunda Chance and I hear hints of Jose Jose, you know, like something right there, you know. And then I listen to you know, to Cries in Spanish, and like I remember Nacha Pop, you know, Lucha de Gigantes. It's something, you know, and right there, it's such a beautifully written album. And you know, I wanted you to share a little bit with us. Like there's room for all. So I feel like that's exactly what Mexican music, which is not regional music, because right now it's Mexican music, you know, as a whole concept. You know, it's much more than that, and I feel there's a lot to still educate globally about what Mexican music really is, because it's so much. So I wanted to hear your input on that, and how Esquinas, was born.
Yeah, I mean, Esquinas was born on the corners that raised me of LA, of, the pueblitos that I used to visit a lot as a kid, where my grandparents are from. And I think that it is a love letter to my abuelitos, for sure, of the music that they introduced me to and would play for me growing up. And then also a love letter to the future generation, to know that it's never too late to learn about where we come from. It's never too late to learn about those things, and also know that you can make it your own, which I think I really got to do with Esquinas. And that was important to me, because I think, okay, sinceramente, al principio, I was like, I'm going to make a traditional album so I can prove to people que sí soy capaz, y también que sí soy mexicana, because that for me was the most traumatizing thing growing up as a kid, was like being like, I'm from LA, I'm Mexican. And then going to Mexico, my primas being like, you're not Mexican. And I'm like, okay, well, when I'm in America, they tell me that I'm Mexican, but when I'm here, they tell me that I'm American. So what am I? And
Everything.
I always felt like I wasn't, but that concept, that feeling of not being enough, and it's its own version of, very different, but its own version of what my grandparents felt when they came to the States, and how they had to assimilate and tell their children, don't speak Spanish. Don't. I want you to speak English. I want you to speak English, because you can get English speaking jobs. You can go to English speaking schools, because we need to speak without accents. We need to, all these things, right? So there's this process of almost like erasing these very important parts of our history to be able to survive. And that's like the saddest part to me, was that like me not being enough actually was these very deep, sad sacrifices that we had to make for the generations that continued to survive. It's not even that they wanted to, they had to, And so when I think of my childhood growing up and the fact that I only was allowed to speak Spanish with my abuelitos, because olvídate, en esta casa hablamos español. And I'd be like, yes, grandma, sí, abuelita. And, like I said, pocha and everything, but like I have my primas that like they definitely can't even hold a conversation in Spanish, but they understand it perfectly. And they make a bomb fideo, and they you know what I mean? Like, nonetheless, they still feel so connected to who they are and where they come from and who they come from and where we come from. And so that was like super important to me, was like to show people that, like, instead of just going full traditional and trying to be something that I am not, which is I am not a Mexicana that was born and raised in Mexico. I am a Chicana who is proud to have Mexican blood running through her veins and is very well educated on the history of her last name. But also very proud to be from Englewood, and very proud to know what those corners look like, and to have been able to listen to two languages of music growing up. I mean, Tupac and Biggie Smalls, as well as, like I mentioned earlier, Jenny and Vicente and all of our other greats. Like, that for me is like, it's such a unique experience. Why wouldn't I want to really just embrace that? And so I feel like I did with Esquinas, and all of those, little elements that you mentioned of nostalgia, like that is for sure, like Segundo Chance, Los Astros, even,
Oh, Los Astros, beautiful. Puño de Tierra.
Puño de Tierra, like, so even the covers that I chose to do on the album were so intentional. And it is the best body of work I think I've made so far as an artist. And it's wild, because it's not the genre that I started in. I started off as a rapper at 14 years old, writing my own songs. And then I did pop music, and then I did reggaeton music. And now I've kind of just become a genreless artist. Why? Because music inspires me. And who I am doesn't change. Regardless of all of those things, regardless of the genre, who I am, where I come from, and what I'm about doesn't change. And really being able to own that and lean into that with Esquinas, which is like the closest I've ever been to my roots, is like been such a, it's been such a beautiful, empowering process. And so I'm so happy to hear that you love it. And it's I'm very proud. I'm very, very proud of this album.
You should be. Yeah, no, and I just mentioned like my favorite ones. Well, I guess my favorite one is the one with Chiquis. I mean, I always get so like giggly and like sing it out loud, it's such a fun one. And
It
again,
is.
like another
Yeah.
like female collaboration that just like, yeah, cherry on top. So yeah. So and yeah, but I don't want to take a focus on what you just said, about being, proud and just that's basically like what we're celebrating right here in this space. And you just like nailed it beautifully what it's all about. So I really thank you for that. Thank you for being here. Thank you for esquinas, and thank you for everything. It's I can't wait what comes next. If there's anything you can like hint about what's coming up next for Becky G, that would be amazing. Or any last words, for our community, Latin community at Google who are watching us right now. The floor is yours.
I mean, yeah, I would say as far as what comes next, the best part about it is I'm really starting to learn to just love I don't know. I don't know what comes next, and I love that. I love that, 5 years ago, I knew that this album Esquinas was always in me somewhere. I always wanted to do something that was dedicated to my roots. But I couldn't tell you when it was gonna happen. Like I said, I started singing Spanish music, but pobrecito mis abuelitos, like they were literally like, I remember I started rap music and my grandma would be like, ay, mija, pero ¿por qué te sientes tan enojada? And like, and I'm like, because I got stuff to say, grandma. Like, you don't even know, And then fast forward all these years and all the other genres that I would explore and dive into, and they would always tell me, mija, cuando la música regional, cuando la música mexicana, vamos. And here it is, right? But again, such a journey to get to this place that like, I don't even know what the next 5 years holds. And I'm really just excited to know that like my expansion as a young woman in this industry, as a businesswoman, is really, I'm planting a lot of seeds right now. And so I hope that in the next 5 years, I have more, badass women by my side, really just being about it and doing the same thing, planting their seeds for more opportunities. I think with Esquinas in particular, I'm just enjoying it. I'm enjoying what's come with it. It was the first album I could say with my whole heart that I didn't make for anyone else other than for myself, my inner niña, for, the artist in me that knew that they wanted to make something meaningful, purposeful, and intentional, and everything that's come with it, from the collaborations and the amazing collaborators that wanted to be a part of it, to the way that it's been received by you guys, by fans, it's incredible. So I'm just gonna hold on to that as long as I can. And just to Google, thank you guys so much. I mean, what the platform for everything, for us to be able to connect with one another, I think is so powerful, and the power of community should never be underestimated. And this is community. You are part of my community. I am part of yours. And so don't ever think that you don't matter, or that what you do doesn't count towards anything. In a time like we live in right now, where we're so connected now more than ever, just remembering that like how we show up really matters. And I'm really proud to be able to show up in this room with you, Andrea, and with everybody else who's watching, from the office, from home, from wherever you are. I hope you guys are safe. I hope you guys are well. And yeah, un abrazo and lots of besitos.
Thank you. I can't thank you enough for making the time. Thank you so much. You've always been showing up for us at YouTube and now at Google in general, for us in the Latin community at Google. We truly thank you for being here, and we hope to see you again very soon in the name of Google and YouTube. Muchísimas gracias. Te queremos.
No, thank you.